Okay, I'm recording now.
You're recording?
Yes.
Okay. What is this called? Obscura Undead. Okay. Welcome to. Oh, are you just not going to edit it at all?
Uh, no.
I hate you so much. I hate you so much. Okay. Well, welcome to Obscura Undead Subculture Shock. I am your host, Skullgirdle. Well, that's my ACA. My real given name is Michelle, along with Azy. And this evening we have Akiko from Psychic Eye Records. And we will be discussing in our effervescent and casual way acceptance in the goth scene. Specifically, I'm going to read it, an independent label supporting darkwave, post punk, electronics, experimental noise, and FTP, which I don't know what that is, but I'm sure that y'all will tell me. But in goth scene music, which includes a lot of stuff that goths listen to that isn't specifically goth genre. So we start with our pronouns. I am Michelle. I go by she, her. If you say they or them, that's fine as well. Azzy?
Pronouns are they, them. I am non binary, as I do.
Oh,
I'm
am I
also
supposed to? So I'm
No, you can
sorry,
say whatever you
Akiko.
want.
Am I supposed to say I'm a cishet?
no, you don't have to. You don't have to out yourself.
It was like I've been in a lot of conversations where I'm just quiet.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to out yourself. You can just say your pronouns. I think is the etiquette
Right.
of the day, and mine are they
Okay.
them as well.
Thank you. Yeah, usually we have our guest go last, so everybody remembers you the most.
Yes.
But I got confused, as happens most streams. This time
Yes.
we're pre-recording
Yep.
because it is the American Thanksgiving, the holiday of the
Bells?
genocidal zealot
Oh,
pilgrims,
yeah.
destroying the people that helped them. But also, it's Fat People Feast because we can sneak in a little bit of normal sized food with fewer people watching us, as their racist uncle is talking about racist shit and grandma's drunk and you're sitting at the kids' table.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so um, since we're just going to talk about whatever comes up, and hopefully we'll have some kind of weird side subjects come up that have to do with stuff. But let's just kind of start with our main idea here: is acceptance in the goth scene, goth community scene, whatever you want to call it. I try to call it the scene because community has like a weird feeling to me sometimes. And I think because we're so diverse all over the world, I think scene kind of works better. That's my personal take. Everybody thinks of goth differently. And Psychic Eye is, first of all, the only one I've seen that supports anti ice charities, which was extremely exciting. And also, this is your second compilation that I saw on the site for trans aid charities. I hate to call them charities because it's not
Just call
really charity.
organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, just organizations for specifically for trans LGBTQAQQ. Did I get it all?
There's some extra stuff, but I think we can go with that for now.
Okay. I'm trying I'm trying to get it all. And so the thing that strikes me about the label, actually from the sound of it, is that it's very modern. So how did you come to create this label with this what feels like a conglomerate almost of
Um,
styles?
yeah. Well, when I started putting out records, I was doing it with my bandmate in Otzi, Gina Marie, and we were doing Near Dark as both a festival and a record label.
Mm.
And she was more of the booking type of person, was like really into the promotion events and that getting like new bands to town and that kind of thing. And I was a lot more focused on the record label. But with the Near Dark aesthetic is a lot more like a anarcho punk plus a little bit of goth crossover. And those two things, like, I think they make a really great aesthetic. I always love going to their events, but I sort of felt like with the growing catalog of anarcho-punk, it sort of felt like the releases that I was doing, which was a little bit more electronic and experimental at times, kind of might not be able to really like go to distributors, like, you know, that kind of thing. It just became like a thing where it was too much accounting and thinking about what's going on. So I just split off from Near Dark and started Psychic Eye. And Near Dark is still going on, and we'll have great festivals again whenever that's possible. but yeah, so for me, it gave me a chance to think about, okay, well, you know, if I'm gonna have a label that has a different identity, mainly what you want to do when you have a label is just put out music you like, you know. So but it's hard for the world to understand it unless like it has some kind of consistency to it, I find. So like, you know, like you think of this certain labels as an indie rock label or as a whatever label, you know, metal label. And so for me, I always have a tendency to listen to and appreciate music that's a little bit more darker, on the dark side, you know, of things. But it's not all I listen to. And I kind of also feel like there's just a lot less platform for people who are doing really compelling and interesting stuff that has some kind of goth vibes, you know, but isn't necessarily something you'd have at a goth show. So I wanted to support those artists who I also find tend to be a lot of the artists I support tend to come from more marginalized identities. And so it's important to me to say that if you're saying, which I've never said, but if it's like a goth label or if it's a dark wave label or anything like that, it's important for me to expand the definition of what I consider my scene or my music to include as many people of color and trans people as possible. Because I feel like if you're like, no, it's only like a guitar that goes like this and a blah, 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 you might as well say it's only like cis guys that play it. And you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I think it just, in order for me to feel like culturally competent and feel like relevant to my actual like queer community, I put out whatever I want, you know. And and so some of the artists are not necessarily dark wave, but yeah, there's definitely crossover. And I find also with some of the artists that I tend to put out a lot more subtlety, I think. And when you open it up to subtlety and like nuance, and then you're able to see something that's more from an immigrant perspective, or something that's more from like, you know, Black artist perspective, or, you know, larger women's perspective, you know. So yeah, I just put out what I want, I guess, like most labels.
Right.
That's all there is to really say. I think I tend to put out more marginalized artists, not because I was going back and forth with this with another person who runs a label, and I don't specifically put out artists that come from more marginalized identities, but I don't see the point of me putting out music where the artists have as much or more resources than I do. Like you put out your own.
Yeah, like, well, that makes a lot of sense. And on the, let me go get, I have to read this because I keep forgetting the order. No Silence, Sounds of the Underground has what I can listen to. What's on there is fucking fantastic. Okay. But there are bona fide protest songs on there.
Yeah.
And my favorite is, come on, I was just talking about this to Azy. It's right before Over, The Death of Autonomy.
Oh, yeah.
Because all the yelling is how it feels to watch this shit on the news.
Yeah, that was their angle too. I think.
Right. And that autonomy, but that no bodily autonomy, you know, it covers more than just women's reproduction.
Right.
Women's, femmes, reproduction, however you want to put it. It covers more than reproduction. It's bodily autonomy. And there was another one on here. No, that's one of the other albums. I listened to bits and pieces of every album on the site that I didn't already own. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on there. And I think what I like about it is that it's very, like I said this before, this is to me, one of the most modern sounding labels, because it's got more experimental sounds. It's got that bite, and it just feels like young people would be drawn to this label. It sounds more youthful.
Oh,
And as a person who loves that cis dude gothic rock,
yeah, I do too, you know.
I see the issues there though. I totally see the issues there. I'm like, okay, well, I like this, but I also like when people are on the stage screaming. Like, have you ever heard lingua ignota?
No, no, I've heard the name, but no.
Uh, outright screaming.
Mm,
Outright screaming. It's got religiously based themes, classically trained musician, and it starts with some of that kind of stuff, and it sounds really beautiful, overture, like church music overture, and then by like the middle, it's just she is screaming. I mean, and she is screaming. It's like Hyde, that song. I want to be in your skin. I want to peel your skin.
ooh,
Yeah, it's grisly, and I love it when that kind of stuff comes from a woman or a femme, somebody who would more likely be trying to fit into society by being pretty.
yeah.
And I find that really exciting. And I felt like your whole label had kind of some of that feel to it, and that experimental stuff, because I've talked for years about how important the experimental parts of goth are to the goth scene, to keep it alive and to breathe fresh life into it.
Mhm.
And I feel like you're doing that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think also like some of the things that are experimental eventually become kind of a lot of people start using them because they sound great, you know. Like
Well, yeah, that's where it comes from.
come on, you know, like that was somebody's experiment once, and now it's kind of a genre staple, you know. And I just think in order to move forward, you have to kind of allow artists and whoever the, you know, the space to do whatever they want. Sometimes you're like, oof, that was not a good experiment, you know. But
No, that's true.
you get what you get, you know? But it's important to have the freedom to do that. And I think like being able to expand your mind about, of course, like there, you know, a lot of traditional goth stuff is kind of my daily bread and butter, what I'll listen to in the car and whatever. But but you know, I want the genre itself to grow, you know. And that's only going to come through new voices and some tweaks in sound and that kind of stuff. True. And it keeps it exciting. But I think also one of the things about goth that made me aside from, you know, being kind of immersed in it in life, you know, one of the things that has been important to me about goth is the focus on remembering the past. You know, like we're real trad goth. Nobody else has trad this or trad that, you know, trad hasher, you know.
We're a fairly anachronistic subculture.
You what?
I said we're a fairly anachronistic subculture.
Right. But I mean, that has been really cool to see this year, that people you know, when people are coming in, they kind of learn all the classic stuff and then kind of branch out from there. But like being able to see that means that I find less ageism in goth than in a lot of other scenes. And I've also found a lot of there's been a lot more creativity in terms of online interactions and how we organize compared to other like I'm really been impressed by, I mean, Obscura Undead is a very good example of like early stuff where people were like, all right, we're gonna keep this going. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what goth has been, you know. I sometimes on the dance floor I'm like, wow, I'm really like listening to something from 40 years ago. Everyone here knows this song, and they're still like, even if the people are dead, they're still speaking to us, you know. So I'm into goth as time travel, you know, basically.
Right. It's like every time, every day as Halloween comes on, your little heart still goes pity pat, pity pat.
Right. And for me, as a I've been playing music for 20 years, and it was only until people started labeling what I do as goth that it started to have more people listening to it, you know. And I think like if were I to play myself, be, you know, not be a not man, you know, in my 40s, I don't think that it would have the same reach. I just don't. Like if I was like, here's my new band, nobody cares, you know, or here's my new punk band or whatever. Like it's very easy to be somebody who comes from an older age group and plays music and still have it be received, or DJ or do whatever, you know.
I think you're right about that. I'm worried about some of that ageism, like that weird gap with how the goth scene seems to be aging and the young people are having a hard time coming in. Well, us old codgers, we should take them under our wings instead of be dicks about it. But which, I do that. But I like how you said that, because that's true. Because when people complain about, we'll go back to Gothic rock, because it's just, I've been thinking about it a lot, and some of the problematic stuff that's in there that I'd like to see expanded. But you see a lot of old dudes in their dusty cowboy hats and stuff like that making music, and people are eating it up with a spoon. And there's like 18-year-olds out there collecting this stuff created by 50-year-olds, which used to just be, what do we call it, codger rock? What was it? I don't remember. It was called old guy rock is what I called it when I was younger. And it is interesting, because you can go to a club and you'll see there are 50 and 60-year-olds there dancing on the same floor as a 22-year-old.
Right. Now, and that's unusual, in most.
Yeah, it is. Thinking about going to any other kind of club. The only other clubs that I have any extensive knowledge of is gay clubs, because good sound systems and good music, fun music. But that, they didn't have the age spread. It was like the older people, it's like you stay by the bar all the time. I don't know. In goth clubs, you see the age spread, even though there's a middle clump.
Well, yeah. Okay. So one thing about the spread, I see that when I go to like a fair festival, like a pride type of thing, or we have Folsom's here. And one of the age gaps that I notice, well, I came into kind of the queer community or whatever when I was a teenager in the 90s, and there was less age gaps there because people hadn't all died of AIDS that were of a generation. So one of the things that we see like millennials, and we see like a couple, like maybe, people in their 60s or 70s who the AIDS epidemic passed over them, like they, and so that's what makes me sad, is like is seeing the lack of people because they died.
Yeah, people in their 40s and 50s are missing.
40s, 50s, and late 50s. You don't see that age group very much in gay events, and that's why, and so actually, like, that reminds me of, you asked me to send some songs, and one of them is Diamande Galas.
Oh, nice.
And because I think she was the first real goth artist that I had ever heard who was talking about things that had a really life or death consequence and applying it to kind of goth methodology or whatever, like, I mean, I would say she's more than like, a goth artist, but she really defined a sound, but to make it seem like we can talk about these things in a way that's both compassionate and angry and spiritual, was kind of an important thing, and reminds me also, as Trump was coming in and people were like, oh, don't worry, we'll survive, we survived Bush, and it's like, no, a lot of people didn't survive Bush, right? And now we can say it wasn't really just like, being contrary or whatever. It was actually like, even just in the US, 240,000 people or something died.
47 last count. I had somebody who told me, they're like, I was talking to an Australian, they're like, oh, you'll be fine, you'll survive that. I was like, you don't understand. We already have at least one Supreme Court position empty. It's going to be judges, it's going to be cabinet members, it's going to be the Senate, and to make them understand exactly the ramifications and how far it was going to go. And now it's going to take us 2 decades to clean this up. If people want things back to normal, I don't want it back to normal, I want it better. But
absolutely.
With that segue, why don't we play that Diamande song
to transition?
Introduced it so beautifully. Is it I Want to Be Your Man? I love that song.
No, so Akiko, can you introduce the Diamande Galas song that you chose?
Yeah, this song is Let's Not Chat About Despair, and it's about despair. That's okay. I mean, but I think that's like when you know, you heard people saying early pandemic, people are like, stop talking about this, stop, I just want like in my house for people to not talk about it, or in wherever. Like there are all these rules where people just like couldn't handle it anymore, you know. So I think that's what this song is about. I imagine it being about every time you run into someone and asking them how they're doing, you know, another few people have died. And so that's the kind of tone of the late 80s and early 90s. And yeah, I think she really nailed it here, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to transition over to that, and we will take a listen.
Whose mother still must hide her face in fear. You who mix the words of torture, suicide, and and death with scotch and soda at the bar. We're all real decent people, aren't we? But there's no time left for talk. Chat about despair.
Like, I mean,
Yeah, that was
Okay,
good.
now we're back.
okay.
Oh, great. Okay, so we're talking about it already. Yeah, we were just talking about how that was pretty powerful. It was very
was
very much poetry.
amazing.
Yeah.
Spoken, shouted.
hmm
Really.
Hissing. Whenever you can add hissing to a track, you're winning, you know?
And whenever you can successfully have arrhythmia.
Mm-hmm. I like that she kind of sounds like a giant serpent that's going to come up and like swallow the White House or something.
Yeah.
You really get like an ominous feeling about her. I like that.
That is amazing.
Oh, it is ominous. It is. She didn't have a lot of fear about what she was doing. She was very gutsy, and she, I mean, social commentary screamed in your face.
Yeah, well, I think at that time too, like the kind of celebrities and musicians that would talk about it would kind of talk about it in this real like innocent victims kind of way, like, you know, there's lots of innocent victims and she's like, you know, these are my people, you know, and I like that, you know. I mean, I think when all of your friends are dying, you kind of don't care what people think about you. You're just gonna do what is right. You know, and her weird hissing music is what sounded, you know, felt right to her. So I appreciate it.
Right. Well, it was her way of expressing what she saw going on around her. And I remember from the first time it was that I heard it, because I was pretty young, that it was called gay cancer.
Mm-hmm, right.
And how there was a little bit of research and how everybody was afraid of anyone who had AIDS, and you couldn't let anyone find out you even suspected. And friends that, I mean, because lots of people got AIDS tests in late 80s, early 90s, like 89, 90, 90 to 92, around that era especially. You could not let anybody, the insurance company, they had to find a way to have anonymous tests. You would lose your insurance. You could lose your job just for having a test come, even if it came out negative. And watching people wait for those results, oh my God, y'all, it's it's soul crushing. So I think that song actually fits really, really well.
I think so too. And just like the kind of anger community wide that, you know, once I was in ACT UP when I was like little, when I was like 15, 16, something like that. And then I got more goth. I was more punk, and then I got more goth. And okay, we did Ouija board. And some of the people that I was in, okay, I don't recommend it, but I did it. And the people that I was in ACT UP with, supposedly some people were back, and some people, Michael, he said he was okay with everything that happened. He got enough ass. And we're like, wow, that really sounds like something Michael would say. Another guy, Doug, was like, we're like, how are you doing? He's like, I'm angry. We're like, why are you angry? He's like, because I was murdered. And we're like, yeah, okay, that checks out. Yeah, that sounds like him too. Because he was really, really bitter. And I think I would be really bitter if I was dying of a disease that may have been planned, or may have been or just through neglect, you know, ended up killing exactly who they wanted to die. So
willful ignorance, because they wouldn't pay attention to it. And yeah, it was horrible. It was pretty bad. And I think for the most part that people, well, I know they're treated better, because watching someone die while trying to hide that in horrible shame, that's, yeah, it doesn't that's not going to leave you. You'll take that to your grave. No,
I would, for sure. Yeah. I'd stay bitter. Yeah, but I mean, in general, I just really liked Diamande's use of terror as kind of like an impetus to create art that galvanizes other people to take some kind of action, whatever it is, on your individual level. But these kind of artists, I think, are really essential, for,
Agreed.
yeah.
But do you think that had some impact on, because when you're doing your vocals, sometimes you kind of haul off and yell. You just start yelling.
Yeah, it feels good.
I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but do you think that hearing those kind of artists and having them in your lexicon of what you listen to, do you think that had a large influence on how you express yourself vocally?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think certain people, just seeing them, even if you're not doing the same thing as them, but you're like, they got to do that. Like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to. I'm gonna, and whatever I'm doing. And I think just seeing some, like you said before, like just really not afraid to do whatever she wanted to do. I think in goth, a lot of times we do end up getting a little bit more
Tropey?
Grumpy? Tropey, yeah. We fell into,
I was thinking formulaic.
yeah, I mean, but these are again like the things where you're making it for goth people. So what goth like is the same thing you like. So you're gonna, you know what I mean? Bang. On the guitar, you're making it to make people happy. So I don't like begrudge stuff where you're like, damn, this sounds exactly like some other thing that I'm real familiar with. That's fine to me, but like again, it kind of falls into, if we all are like, all music has to be this formula, it ends up being like not music anymore.
Yeah, it ends up being pop music. Or when all the big YouTubers were making, I mean, people who couldn't do any kind of music were doing shows on the road. If you heard that music, it's like all auto-tune and well, lame is a good word for it.
Huh.
It becomes sameness. And
yeah.
I feel like that's, sorry, while I adjust, I feel like that's common in pop music more so now than it used to be.
I think it's common in like pretty much anything that's a genre and anything that's subculture. Pop culture isn't really subculture. I mean, I guess it is in their weird way, but the way that kind of, I think of goth in a similar way to where I think about like sci-fi and horror movies, where you're always like kind of referring to something iconic from the past, just to let people know you're in this little, you're here. You're making a goth song.
Right. You're goth
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think some of the references in some ways are positive, because it's just like a little like, how far am I going? And you're like, okay, I'm right here. I can, I get where I am. It's like when you're at the pool when you're little, and like, how deep
are the stairs, and you're like, shit.
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's in any genre there's going to end up being some formula to it, and I think well, a lot of it is the artfulness and how do you use that formula. I mean, even a song itself is like verse chorus bridge.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Every song is the same basically.
A B C.
Right, yeah. So when you're using similar like guitar sounds or drum sounds or whatever, I might like to listen to it, but I don't think I'll listen to it like 400 times or anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been noticing the term, so I like to keep track of genre tags, especially when like people start making up new ones, because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I noticed that like a couple years ago, I started seeing like anarcho-goth being used to mean like more politically minded, like maybe death rock or punkier goth. But more recently, I feel like I've been seeing it used to refer to anything that has any sort of like social or political messaging that happens to use goth as a touchstone, but might expand across multiple genres. So it's something that breaks more out of those kind of, like formulaic goth tropes.
Well, it is called anarcho, so I mean, there's that.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah, but it's kind of like post-punk, you're saying post-punk means post-punk, it really could mean a lot of things, but it means pretty specific things, in terms of like, it's this formula. And I feel like anarcho-goth, we'll see what they do with this term, but
Yeah,
to me,
always.
but to me, it would be, there seems like a large amount of anarcho-punk plus goth crossover, and that's to me what it would mean. Like if I were to like get a drum machine and my dog and like scream about how I don't like something, that
right. I found it curious lately that I've been seeing it kind of expand past that.
Right, yeah.
That's exactly what I would expect as well.
Yeah. That's my dog. See, she's
yeah, your dog's like, let's start a band. Hurry up. We got some things to say.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's a little dog.
Yeah, very little.
Puppy.
That was a little dog.
That's a big dog.
I don't know.
Medium dog.
I think I have one cat who's bigger than your dog.
I have one cat
bigger than my dog.
One cat smaller.
I
have one cat that's bigger and one cat that's smaller.
I have one cat that's like this big and one cat that's like this big.
Oh, that's nice.
No, I have one dog that's this big and then two dogs that are about this big.
Okay, good. Now we're all clear.
Tiny chaos.
But yeah. What other genre tags have you seen?
Oh, ship. That's a good one. What are the ones have I been tracking?
I've seen something else that has the word new, N-U, in front of it that wasn't new goth or new metal. I wish I could remember what it was.
I wish I was seeing more coming out of dark punk.
Yeah, I think they made dark punk anarcho-punk or anarcho-goth, and they don't say dark punk anymore. That's my feeling. I haven't seen that used in a while.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
Let me think. What other ones? Because like, I try to, whenever I find one that has like a bunch of stuff that I'm interested in on Bandcamp, I'm like, okay, follow this, and then so I get pings for it. I'm trying to think of another one. I don't know. All I can think about is complaints about how like new metal and synthwave aren't darkwave, but that's the opposite direction.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Why would new metal be darkwave? Is new metal actually darkwave?
No, it's just people put darkwave on everything now on Bandcamp.
Oh, well, there's a lot of genre mixing, and in our area down here, there's a lot of shit that's mixed with darkwave. You don't really see straight on goth genre very much. You see, you're more likely to see experimental stuff around it, or I'll say post-punk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think to me, like, I will watch the tags to be like, what are people talking about now? But you have to stay current, but I think a lot of time, like as a musician, like I don't care what the genre is that people call anything. To me, it's like whatever word meets the audience, like the audience and the bands know how to meet each other via a term. Like that's what all that matters to me. And
it's weird what sometimes grows out of like those really small niche tags that people put on their stuff, and that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think a lot of times too, some of the bands use the tags a little bit more in a marketing kind of way. Like, I don't know, people like darkwave, say #darkwave, you got 5 hashtags, for Bandcamp.
Oh, yeah,
right.
I've seen,
and then some people get really creative, they're like, this is whatever, they make stuff up.
I helped with a comp on Venus Aeon earlier this year, and it's goth tracks that kind of have like a dusty cowboy vibe, to go back to dusty, not dirty, but have that like Western twang in them. And one of the tags that I insisted that got put on the comp was Yeehaw Goth.
Oh, that's right. Yeehaw Goth.
Mostly because it just made me laugh.
Yeah, but it actually worked.
Cowboy goth, I would be like, ooh, no, avoid that. But Yeehaw Goth, I might be like, what is going on here?
I'm gonna put country fried goth or something like. I like it when people use their tags like very cheeky.
Yeah.
When they do it on Bandcamp, and then if you go and look at it on Instagram or Facebook, sometimes you'll see they're cheeky, like Yeehaw Goth is the type of thing. I've seen Like you'll see SLC, Salt Lake City Goth, so you know where the scene is or something like
I
that.
like that a lot
That's
when people
descriptive.
tag their city.
Yeah, and I did that when I first found Bandcamp. When I first started discovering some goth music, one of the first things I did was look for Texas goth because I wanted to see who I could go see.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I met Clint. He was the one Texas band out of like 5 or 7 that I sent emails to on Bandcamp that actually answered me.
Aww.
He was the only one. And then I saw him at Goth Night. It just so happened that the local one was the one who actually wrote me back. So yeah, so we've been friends because of that. Not really because of that, but
I thought it's because he does his laundry at your house.
Thanks for bringing that up again.
Well,
I can't
he brings
believe
it
you
up
told me that on
constantly.
that last stream. I'm like, fucking A, man. He lives in an apartment. There's nowhere for him to have a connection to do that. So he does his laundry here. But
I think it's sweet how much you guys love each other.
Well, yes, we do. But it all started from writing on Bandcamp. So for artists on Bandcamp, write people back when they write to you. You never know if you're going to wind up being good friends and doing your laundry at their house.
Right.
You might come over and they feed you homemade olla de carne.
I will always write back to Bandcamp emails now that you've said that. I mean, I do anyway, but
you might get dinners and laundry out of it. But yeah, it's like on my YouTube, I generally, when somebody comments, unless it's like a conspiracy theorist that I think is funny and I'm not going to delete, I will usually answer every single comment.
Mm-hmm.
I may get behind. Haven't made videos in a while, so I've been really behind. But I answer all of it because as a fan, I think it's really important for people when they answer you. And I think that it's really difficult sometimes to write or message or whatever somebody that you admire. So they deserve an answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's how I first talked to you, Michelle.
Right. And I actually, when I try to answer in a way that, I actually read what you wrote.
Yeah, and we never spoke again until I met you in Germany.
I'm sure we talked on Discord.
No, I don't think so. But I don't know. It's the coming together. That's the important part.
Right.
And I'm gonna use that as a really hard segue. It's not a good segue. This actually talking about the segue is my segue. About I've always wondered, but I've never posed the question to anyone because I never had the opportunity. In Oakland a few years back, that there was that really tragic fire. And it kind of seemed to me that after that, so many musicians and bands ended up turning that tragedy and that loss into something really powerful and positive for the music community in your city.
Yeah. Go on.
Well, mostly I just was wondering about that. I don't have a specific question. It's just that's kind of what it seemed like because Oakland has become this huge hotbed of, at least from my perspective, all the way across the country in Florida, of collaboration and that willingness to experiment.
Yeah. Well, I think that the fire impacted our community in so many ways. The first of all, and foremost, that if I mean like a quarter of the people that you would see at a typical show were not there anymore, so that was first, and then also a lot of very, very active people in the scene were the ones who were at that show, and so a lot of people who organized stuff or were in bands and were pretty essential to the music community, just kind of existing. They all passed. So, and then right after that, there was the city government was trying to use it as an excuse basically to get people who were in kind of half live workspaces, that kind of thing. They were trying to.
I have a tornado siren.
Oh yeah, yeah. So everybody was getting evicted that had any kind of DIY space, and also people just started to be afraid to go to shows. That was a severe trauma, you know. So I think in general, people were like, okay, that we have to keep like the art scene going. Like we can't let the city shut this down as a gentrification measure, because that's what, you know, collectively I think people kind of decided in every kind of music that that the best way to honor those people is to make the music scene continue on strong, you know, stronger, whatever you could, just not die over, you know, over that. Like I all of the people who passed were like really creative people, so that would be like the opposite of what they wanted, is everybody just kind of put their tails between their legs and just stopped, you know. So there was a lot of mobilization at that time of trying to get venues up to safety standards, and you know, between artists, more artist collaboration. But it was really over a lot of sadness, you know. It was like I can't really it's kind of like I mean, probably how people in the Middle East feel, you know, like it was like a bomb going off in your neighborhood. It just happened to be our neighborhood then. So
right, and that's
so
a really powerful thing to mobilize, even when, you know, like the city's trying to use that shock to, exactly as you say, gentrify and get rid of everything.
right. So while like saying that they're trying to help people or whatever, what they were largely doing was displacing more people, you know, and kind of like making it so that the only place you could go play was a bar and they could tax it, you know, like that kind of thing. So and yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of also people for a while just kind of crossed subcultural boundaries. You know, it's sort of like whoever goes to shows or is involved with events kind of like felt a little bit more connected in for a while. Of course, after that it gets old and you're like, the reason we didn't hang out is because we don't like each other. You know, it only takes like 6 months of drama and then you're like, all right, okay, back to same, you know. But yeah, it forced people to really work together in a way. And I think for the artists who were just kind of coming out too at that time, like my band and Mystic Priestess and a couple other bands played at Ghost Ship a month before that happened. There that was like a more gothy show, but like the show that that people ended up, you know, passing at was more like experimental electronic type of show. So so knowing that the electronic and experimental scenes were like kind of were the most decimated out of anybody, like I think that there's a bigger push in Oakland to like respect experimental music in a way I don't see it respected in other cities, you know, and know that like these are the artists that are for the most part are being more creative about what spaces we can use, what can be a venue, what's a way of getting your art out, you know. And so yeah, I think it like here there is the goth scene, but there's not like just the goth scene. Like we're very connected to the punk and experimental scenes and you know, stuff like that. So so I think we tend to work together in a way that you know, based on loss is has done some good, but also I mean it kind of has set us up in a way where our COVID response is like community based as well, you know, like we have people who friends of ours who we support going out and doing I think they did 10,000 home cooked meals last year to houseless communities, because we have tents lined up everywhere too. It's like a kind of sci-fi movie where like you're driving to your friend's house and then you pass like you know, 20 tents just in a couple blocks. Actually, the UN said that the Bay Area is one of the most cruel places to houseless people, and they're like counting, you know, shack cities in India and Brazil, and you know, like they're like, this is messed up. Wow. So we kind of have to mobilize, and and you know, one of the things is like I have a friend's band. Half of the band has COVID now because one person has to work in food service. So we deliver meals to them. There's just no question you can't cook for yourself when you're having COVID and quarantining in separate rooms. So, you know, we have people dropping off food to them every day. And then we have, for whoever dropped off food, some lasagna, vegan lasagna.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it feels very good to know that, like, because a lot of times most people's feeling has been one of isolation during the pandemic, is what I gather, you know, and I haven't felt the kind of isolation, you know, that I think some people have. I've gotten down, you know.
I'm the same. I do better than average alone.
Yeah,
I enjoy myself. I have these dogs that if I need a hug, poor pumpkin, they're in another room, y'all. Just so you know why I got up and ran, I just had tornado sirens going off.
Oh.
They've stopped. So if you hear some whining, that's because the dogs have a pillow on them in the laundry room and their food's in there and my purse. So if I'd have to get up and run, I have to get up and run.
Okay. I thought you were saying tornado siren as like a metaphor.
No. No, real tornado sirens, but now it's raining like crazy. So
I thought that was maybe code for something going on with your pups.
No. I was like, tornado in November is exceedingly rare. Hello, climate change.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the Greek letters, so Greek alphabet.
Yep. The interesting thing is that with all the COVID isolation that we're talking about and people staying in, that some parts of the earth are healing and faster than anybody thought was even possible.
Yeah,
but unfortunately there hasn't been as much of a drop in carbon in the atmosphere, so that
right. Well, you know, I had a friend who went to the airport and he said it was like a normal busy day at the airport. Maybe not Thanksgiving busy, but the airport is full.
Yeah. Gosh, I was watching Dr. Fauci talk about that on the NPR NewsHour last night.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be able to get stuff delivered. I do my best to order during the week, during the day, so that whoever does the shopping, or if I go shopping, if I have to go shopping, it's 6:30 in the morning on a weekend on Saturday. Ain't nobody there but the people who are masked up and are scared that you'll get near them.
Well,
but I want everybody as safe as possible because I have a couple of very high risk factors. So I'm just like, stay in your fucking house, man.
I think it might be just about time to put on another track. We still have 4 to go. We've done 1.
Oh yeah.
So which one should we do?
Let's see. What do we have there? Oh, I can't say, right?
Oh, you can say.
Let's see. Let's just listen to Tribe 8. That's the one I remember sending that one.
Tribe 8.
Oh God, I can't read from these glasses.
All right. Is there anything special about this track or that you'd like to say about it, or should we just experience it?
It's just Tribe 8. Let's listen.
Okay. I do not know who this is. Exciting.
I don't use the word seminal, but it's a seminal San Francisco band.
Neat.
People hate me! People hate me! I know it's the case! Is it the metal in my face? Is it the ring in my kid? My girlie's name delicately traced in permanent ink on my arm, that's it! People hate me! Make a lot of noise! They're kinda scared cause I don't need boys. Whisper biscuits what I like to lick. Ain't the kind of chick where they can stick their prick. People hate me for the color of my skin and the shape of my eyes, cause I might take revenge for the lies their daddies told my kin. I might take their life just to raise my mom. I might have a knife or a gun or a bomb. I'm a machete. People hate me cause I'm not like them. I don't give a shit where I fit my phlegm. Castrating bitch, show my tits. Don't shave my legs or my armpits. People hate us, we start trouble. Fuck shit up, burst their bubble. We like chainsaws and fake blood. From Bloomington to Boston, our name's Bud. People hate me cause I'm not gonna die. They inside they think I was great. Might just go away, but I'm not, cause I got a lot of shit to say. People hate me.
Middle Eastern style dancer. I do a few different types. People call it belly dance. And so we would throw shows or whatever. And we had this one show at the missile base. The place had no windows, old missile base, bunch of hippies living there. So we're doing the show and everybody's all prissed up in their costumes and stuff. Well, varying kinds of costumes. And there was a young woman there who did not shave her armpits. There were two actually one time. And it was this huge fucking drama. And that is why it makes it into a song like that, because it's a huge drama that some woman chooses not to mutilate their body hair to make everybody else happy. I personally have shaved my armpits. I like them shaved. But I was just like, who gives a shit?
Right. That's really hard to care.
but because everybody's talking about it, I had to get a look.
Right.
But now I want to see it.
Right. That's funny.
Societal indoctrination is strong. Even when you don't actually care, because I don't give a shit if someone has armpit hair.
I don't.
I had a teacher in college that had armpit hair, and I was like, oh, look at that, she doesn't shave her armpits. I was like, you mean you cannot shave your armpits?
That's an option?
Knowing me, I probably stopped shaving my armpits for 6 months. I've done that a few times because I don't give a shit. But it's interesting to me what little thing will cause tremendous and ridiculous drama.
That's true. Yeah. So this band Tribate, they were one of the first what we called at the time queercore bands. So that was like queer punk. And they were on the queer punk label, and it was the first 7-inch I ever found and bought was called There's a Dyke in the Pit, and it was Bikini Kill, Lucy Stoners, and Tribate. And so I'm like, what is going on here? I want to know about this. And I was like 15, So it wasn't this particular song, but like just Tribate in general. You have to see a picture of them because at the time they were like, they just look like, punk lesbians from the Mission in San Francisco. But, they had to tour when you think about it. When you're touring, that's not always good. You have to go through Southern Oregon. You have a lot of places to go through when you tour out of California. So there's some dangerous places to go through, on your way to wherever. And I think that they had quite a bit of danger about them. They're kind of like, we're so dangerous. But they also played with Two Live Crew.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. That actually makes sense.
The bands really liked each other. And and they're like, wow, we both do, scandalous things. And that was it. I don't know, but just in general, their shows were important to me as a young queer person, because there were only like 3 queer bands, at that time. And they were one of them, and they were just the toughest one. And now when I look back, like some, the lyrics, when you hear the lyrics, you're like, this is a little bit juvenile, but it's okay, like at the time it was like just like very fun, to see someone expressing themselves, on stage, and like to see like a kind of like a powerful queer conglomeration, was important, and more so in the music, the fact that they just were not afraid of doing that, was what was inspiring.
And is it as juvenile when you think about the time when it was done and the place in the audience? I think it's a lot less juvenile if you put all of it together. Right. Sure, it's kind of like a fun anthem of Everybody Hates Me. I think that's a hilarious song. It's cute.
No, let's relate to that. Yeah.
Right. Every time, and I would think most punks and goths can relate to that, because sometimes people are real shitty.
Yeah.
But just be in their face about it. Go ahead, hate me.
Yeah, they did have like, I feel like their songs are more anthemic that way, most of them, and and that just makes for a good show when you have 10 anthems in a row.
Right. Everybody's like, yeah, when they leave.
Yeah. You know? Yeah.
Maybe they went home and wrote their own music.
Yeah. And one of the women in the band was she's a tattoo artist, but there's one Asian woman, so I always like pay attention to when there's a band with an Asian person in it, because there's not that many, you know. And yeah, just all told, it was and she's femme. She didn't seem to be having to like make herself be butch, you know what I mean, to like fit this band. It was all just kind of like people being fully themselves, and even when there was quite a bit of femphobia in the lesbian community and transphobia, they were doing whatever they wanted, and
yeah,
I love it.
Oh, yep. I googled Tribe 8 and there's a bunch of show photos, and some of these are very nude.
Yeah, they
Which
they were,
that's not surprising. I mean, if they're in the same vein as, you know, like Bikini Kill and
and nude punk was bigger then. There were a couple of bands that tended to be nude, but I think especially for the singer is trans and does identifies as a man now, but I think part of like the part of the journey in that is like accessing the freedoms that men have, you know, just part of I mean, even though they're talking about, oh, my face is pierced and, you know, whatever, that's fine, but like, you know, just talking about how you're changing yourself physically to match how you feel on the inside, and if it's not accepted, all the better, because you wouldn't accept my soul either. You know, it's just interesting to see that like some of the bands that, like you're saying, yeah, we're like take it all off, you know, also like end up being in a part of gender spectrum where confrontation is required, you know. So so I just, there's lots of ways to appreciate Tribe 8, you know.
No, I'm back on gender spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Confrontation required.
Yeah.
You care to go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's not my bag. I don't like it. I don't like to do it. Like, as far as like being non-binary, I feel like I've like been on like the kind of chihuahua end of a lot of movements, where I'm like the little small thing that's like, you know, and then like eventually there's a movement all saying the same thing, you know, and now you don't matter anymore. But when you're the little chihuahua, you know, people are like, you're annoying, you're crazy, stop it, you know, blah blah blah, like that. And I feel like how people come to non-binary identity is probably different for everyone, but for me, I was like, those other people don't have to have well, how come they don't have to have a gender? This is like me like calling out myself. Like I was a little transphobic on this issue for a minute, and you know, when it hits you, when it gets under your skin, that means you're an egg. So you know, so I'd be like, but they don't have to be he or she. Well, why can't I do that? And then I'm like, I can't.
Oh.
That's the whole thing, is I can't, you know. And I think for me, it's hard to say what is the difference. I think for what's it called, AFAB people, it's hard to know what is the difference between I don't want to be treated like a woman and I am not a woman, you know. I think it's like very very related, you know. It's like, I'm not into any of the, I can't keep I'm goth and I can't keep fingernail polish on, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and like just these things with the you know, performance of gender, I'm just so done with, you know. I'm like, I don't have the time to change my shoes. You either want me to come to the show or not. I'm not going to change my shoes and put on a bunch of stuff on my face because I'm supposed to be a woman that performs these things for you just to leave my house. I'm gonna leave my house whenever I want to, however I want to look, you know, and in ways I don't want to look. I'm just gonna, you know, just accept it, you know. But I think part of non-binary identity for me was like I no longer felt pressured to do like the things that felt performative about gender. I was just like, I'm over it. You can be over it if you want to, but I am.
That's a lot of how I felt too, is because I stopped using the excuse, well, I'm just not that girly, to try to
Right.
like write all of that off. And then, I found I didn't have to. I'm just moving completely outside of that, and it just
Right. So for me, it's like and being in a band, which is like essentially like a unit with people who are binary, trans, and whatever. Like I always kind of defer to making sure that their identity is respected and acknowledged. And if people misgender me on tour or whatever, or just in life, I don't have the energy. I really appreciate people who do have the energy to be like, this is not my pronoun is this, or whatever. But I'm just kind of like that's how I do it. Because like otherwise it's like if you're on tour, I don't want every night to explain gender to a crew of people that just work at a venue.
I genuinely appreciate when your friends and allies do it for you, because it feels like people are more likely to accept it when someone else says it than if you're trying to tell them, and it's like there's no fucking difference. You're getting the same information.
No, it's true. It's like I don't like to analogize things that much, but it's almost like when like a man repeats what you say and people are like, oh, okay, I get it now because you said it in your
that. I work in the tech world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to think of myself as binary, and I don't like to be restricted by some social constructs.
Uh-huh.
I pick what I like.
Yeah.
Like some things to me have no gender. Makeup has no gender. Clothing has no gender.
Right.
Gender is as we know it. To me, it's kind of like it's this spectrum, and some people are all the way in the middle and have like they're different. They're not on either end. It's just define your fucking self.
Right. Yeah.
So the social constructs of gender I find to be damaging, but I live in the land of men having to explain stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's
To
a
me,
hard.
while they've asked me about it. To me, while they've asked me the fuck about this shit, and this happened a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mansplaining.
Yeah.
So that happens to all of us, but what you guys are saying is actually, it's very much ringing like a lot of things that I find true for myself, but still I identify as a woman.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's great. I mean, I think that's the thing is it's hard for me, it's hard to know what the differences are. And to me, I just don't even care, because the whole thing is I am tired of it. I'm tired of it, like I basically experience life as a woman. Like if I go to the store, people are going to say ma'am to me. I just like can't. I mean, I even looked into like top surgery and stuff, but I'm like people are going to stop saying it after that. And also I'm tired of proving myself in different ways. Like now I'm proving my gender, and now I'm like I've gone through a lot of hoops, in various, like a lot of extreme hoops, and I'm done with the hoops. Like I'm just going to be me, and you can, call me the correct thing, or you can not call me that, and I just kind of like ignore you from then on out because you don't exist to me.
I like that strategy. That's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who will respect your gender and will respect you as a person, and I just focus on them, So when people call me the wrong thing, I'm like, huh, interesting.
Yeah. Like
what if they just don't know? What if this is the first time they've met you? They've never met you before. They have no fucking idea.
It's if they've never met me before. I mean, it would be tight to like normalize in society just saying they when you don't know someone, because
right. Oh no, I think we should do that.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
It's better than all the way wrong, So and I think it's just generally better, but that's not going to happen all over the place. That's not going to happen everywhere you go. That's not going to happen in most places. And so for me, like I am more focused on like, okay, if I go and travel, I want to meet the other people that are kind of like me and like, want to like experience like life and art as a non-binary or trans person or a queer person, or even like in some places just being a woman is like a burden enough, you know what I mean? To just so I try to focus on that. And people who it really depends, because some people can be exposed to kind of gender theory and just assume, you know, a gender, and then they can be like, oopsie, you know, I shouldn't have assumed, and then that's fine, you know, that's great. And some people have never heard of it before, and that's not a discussion that's for me, for someone I've just met. That's like way too much energy. You know, like,
Right.
okay, here's the guy in
I've
Arkansas
had people
now.
message
Yep.
me asking me to explain like the whole concept to them in depth, and sometimes I'm just like, no. And then other days I'm like, you know what? I've had breakfast. Let's
Right,
talk
What
about
right.
about a
this.
Google link? What about
It's
a Google link?
battles sort of gender identity.
Well, trying to explain it though to random people who have never heard about it, it always feels so much easier though than trying to explain it to people who have known you for a very long time, and then suddenly your gender is different. Like, my husband is finally reached a point where he is fully comfortable with it,
Mm-hmm.
but it took a very long time, and by very long time I mean like all of COVID.
Yeah.
and longer. Basically, since I've been, you know, quote unquote out, although I kind of don't like
Mm-hmm.
that at all. Um, Getting him to readjust that sort of like thinking and stop thinking like, oh, you have huge boobs,
Right.
woman.
Woman.
You're a person.
Yeah,
Think
but
you're a person.
I really appreciate how much he's tried and how much he's worked to call me partner instead of wife.
Mm-hmm.
Even like not when I'm around, which I think is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But like I get that it's sometimes like a huge struggle, and yeah, like just dealing with that is very emotionally exhausting. Having 10,000 conversations about it is so fucking tiring.
It really is, yeah. Especially like old friends, they're the worst. like, you know, like I will see like a group of people that, you know, I was friends with for, you know, 10 years ago or longer, and it's like they just can't. We all really like each other as people, but y'all don't like me enough to use the right pronoun, you know.
Right. And
You're like, you can ask me to fucking take a plane somewhere, you know, to meet y'all, but then you can't use the right pronoun. That's free, okay? You know.
yeah, no, I'd rather suffer through a conversation where someone repeats every single sentence because they have misused the wrong pronoun than just not have it like any effort at all.
Yeah, yeah. And I understand like it's hard because when I first got exposed to this concept, like it was hard for me at first to like just move out of the idea that you have to say either he or she, so that in itself was like a language exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get it, but at the same time, you know, like pick up the pace, like the dictionaries on it, you know.
Right.
So,
Well, I know it's a lot more difficult in languages that have grammatical gender.
right, I know.
Because I have a Spanish-speaking friend who's non-binary, and I know it's a real struggle for them because aren't conventions for that. But in English, we have those conventions.
Right.
Well, and in English, our definite articles do not have gender.
Right.
So we have that option. But really, just call people they. Refer to people more to the audience who are identify as one of the binaries. Just start referring to more people as they. And when you fuck up, and you will, I promise you, and it will happen when you don't expect it, apologize, correct yourself, and move on.
Yeah.
One interesting problem that I found that I had was when telling stories about myself in the past tense,
Mm-hmm.
I kept using, you know, she, her.
Mm-hmm.
But not when I was telling stories in like future tense or talking about present tense. It was having to like go back and reform like all of these, I guess, like memory connections with like, no, like
Mm-hmm.
just because you identified as female or whatever, those are the pronouns you went by back then, doesn't mean you have to refer to yourself that way, especially when it makes you feel like shit.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that. I had a hard time with that also, but like what I remembered that when I was quoting people saying something annoying about me, then I kept she. And then they're like, she, man. Yeah, but otherwise, like I'd neutralize it.
Right.
That's funny because it just adds an extra level of annoyance to it.
Right? Yeah, you're like, oh, you keep talking.
Oh, okay, let's go to the third song.
Okay, what do we have?
So what we have left is, let me actually open up the list. Okay. What we have left is the Go-Go's, X-Ray Spex, and IMIJ.
Oh yeah,
or
Image.
Image. How do you pronounce it?
Okay. The Go-Go's is my least. I just had to do 5, so I added 1 because I watched this documentary recently. I mean, finding songs that are meaningful to you is hard. Finding songs that you like, that's easier. But okay, so let's go with Image.
Okay, it is Image. Okay. What's the name of the song?
I don't know. I just they were not a band that like got it was it wasn't pre CDs, but it was harder then. It was just harder. It's like early 90s. So you put it on and then I'll surprise you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been surprised every time so far, so I'm loving it.
Oh, there it is.
The Moore Theater, and I only saw this band like when they played at kind of like open air free stuff because I was 15. And Seattle had a dance ordinance then, so they had shut down all shows that were under 21. There used to be some places that were 18 and up.
Yeah. We have a little bit of that. It reminds me of bands from when I was in college. Kind of that a little bit of funk bass in there.
Yeah, that funk bass was amazing.
I was like, ooh, live. Ooh, a live one. Because with bands,
special surprise for you. Okay, so
good.
this singer, if the voice sounded anywhere like recognizable to you, I think you'll recognize it after I say this. This is Shannon from Light Asylum.
Oh. Okay.
And so like that was like back in the day we had to find some guys to play some stuff, you know. But she was amazing, you know. And so this was like my first band that I got to see, like, here's this like shaved head, like black woman or person, gender spectrum, some stuff going on. This is very exciting, regardless of the dudes that are in the band and the music. I mean, it was good, but it was like, you know, your rock band, you know. And I think the only reason I chose this song was because it was shorter than others, so it was better than playing like a 6-minute song on a show, you know. But yeah, this was, I didn't know that that the person in Light Asylum was the same person, local musician I used to see, you know, when I was little and be like, wow, you know, what is this? Until like last year when I was on tour with Otzi, and I saw a friend from back in the day who was like, yeah, you know, Shannon from Light Asylum was an IMIJ. And I'm like, what? You know, this band that like it felt like only a couple of people saw, but like maybe, I mean, people saw them, but I feel like it really stuck with you know, I'll call myself at the time like young queer women, you know. We were like, what's going on, you know. And so to see her go from something that was kind of like whatever you can do at any time, it kind of like speaks to versatility, you know, and creativity and how you get your message out. Because I don't want to see all those dudes in that band, you know, like I just want to see Shannon from Light Asylum, you know. And so that's amazing. And then oh, another thing is, I wasn't at this show, but my friend who was telling me about it was. And they would get on some pretty good bills because they were like a, you know, a local rock band that was, you know, they whatever. And so so they'd be opening for some larger audiences, and people would be really, really heckling and abusing Shannon, you know, when she came out, and they'd be screaming stuff like, are you a man or a woman? You know, this all white audience like screaming, are you a man or a woman? So she just started ripping her shirt off. She ripped it off completely and ripped off like her pants, and was just like, and was like almost nude. Nudity was big still, you know, and was like, this is what I am. You want to see me? This is what I am, you know. And then people shut up.
All right.
That was aggressive. So
that was amazing.
Really
that is badass.
Yeah. And so, you know, all these like young queer people in the audience being like, you know, you can do that, you know, you can just tell people, oh, you want to see what I am, and take off all your clothes and make them deal with it. That's tough, you know.
Really calling their bluff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Called their fucking bluff, because I cannot imagine saying something like that to someone.
I know, but also because she's like so muscular.
Trying to be polite. I can't imagine it.
Yeah, but she's like really muscular, but also like intimidates you while she's doing that, you know, because you're like, oh, now this person is mad at me.
Good.
Yeah, just really. I've never, as a performer, like dealt with heckling in that way, and that's like someday I would like to channel that. I don't want to get naked, but I want to do something, you know. But yeah, so I mean, I just think as a lot of the things too is like we have to me we have language tools and stuff that after millennials came of age, so to speak, really improved life. Like we were just waiting before that for millennials to like come of age because somebody needs to do something about this, you know. And like very small number of Gen Xers, you know, or whatever, that just people would be like, oh, you're just saying this because you're young and crazy or whatever. But to have a more of a critical mass of people using phrases like white tears, white fragility. If you did not have those phrases, can you imagine how difficult it would be to explain these concepts to people? Because that's what I used to have to do.
It's
Be like, you are being overly sensitive about somebody calling you racist, and we didn't have gaslighting, and you're trying to make it seem as though it's not happening because it suits you. Eventually people are just like, you are wild, like, what are you even talking about? You just have to use too many words to explain these same concepts. And so not having anything like even calling people cis, you couldn't even call people cis then, so all you have is like your will to survive, which is I think what Shannon showed when she was like ripping off her clothes and be like, look at me, this is what I am. That's the answer.
Being a badass.
Being a badass. It's so aspirational to me.
Yeah. Oh no, I would, if I was in that crowd, I would have eaten that up.
Right. Because like there's always like the annoying dude next to you at a concert, and then you're like,
the annoying dude probably get hit with the elbows on. Yeah.
So yeah.
But I especially love that kind of confrontational, just like, oh, you want that? Good, here you go.
Right, because I got it. Yeah, and then it's like, oh.
Right. And I think you're right about the language. I hadn't thought about that because I'm so busy sometimes looking up these terms, trying to keep up with American slang is very quickly evolving slang. I think we have some of the fastest evolving slang in the world. Plus, we just make shit up on the fly. But I personally, I'm wondering, with all the people who are now able to have some words that they feel are closer to defining them. We'll say non-binary is it seems so obvious, but it's the one now. And I've heard people say, well, it's just popular to be non-binary. I'm like, bitch, you need to shut up.
Yeah.
You need to shut the fuck up. But also, I feel like in the next few years, there will be more words to help people explain themselves a little bit more clearly.
I think so too. Yeah.
Like you're saying, gaslighting, and I would have just used racist fuck in the past, but I guess what'd you say? What was it? White fragility. Looking up white fragility to try to explain it to someone because it seems so obvious. But I was like, I don't have the words to explain this properly to someone who won't listen to me.
Right. That's always the problem. That's a problem that lasts forever.
Right. But I think those words that give more power to people who have been marginalized, and I think also just the fact that there are words, so that now we all know somebody. We all know somebody who says they're non-binary. I don't know what the fuck that means. Listen to that's old white dude in my head. Right. I think it's great that we have this language that evolves, that you can start to have a clearer idea.
Yeah.
Of how to explain yourself. I don't feel that it's necessary for other people to necessarily know, but I think to be able to give that to yourself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And it's evolving. Yeah. Like in 5 years, we're going to see new words come out and people can be like, it's just popular to be that. And it's like, you know what? Kiss my ass.
Kiss my ass. There's, non-binary, because the fact that a word exists tells me that I am not a freak. And that there are people out there like me.
Right. You've never been a freak. And to me, this is all part of normal. And it should always have been. I've felt like somebody tells me what to call you, he, she, they. It is tough. I have a hard time with it. But whatever you tell me to call you, if it changes tomorrow, you just tell me tomorrow.
I've never heard it tomorrow,
I don't give a shit. Whatever you say you are is what you are. Unless you say you're goth, you don't listen to any goth music.
Then you're not.
I've only ever heard one person say it, and that was to mock that was to mock some non-binary people. So that's usually the case that I've ever seen anyone use it.
Yeah, usually an obviously trans person. And I've seen it more used derogatorily against trans women than any other way. But there are some people who want to be called it. One of my very close friends, her former daughter and now person, always was a person though, obviously, asked to be called they or it. And my friend had a difficult time with it. She couldn't do it. She couldn't do it because the derogatory connotation is too much. Yeah. So they had to agree on they. Okay. And it was interesting watching the whole last year for Thanksgiving. We're all, hanging out. They have 3 children. Everybody's girlfriends were there. Girlfriends and boyfriend or whatever were there. And then the grandmother, who absolutely refuses to recognize any of this stuff,
Right, yeah.
anything that might not be the perfect 2.4 children, cat, dog, American lie, I mean, dream, comes
Uh-huh.
in, and the mood in the whole place for that hour and about 15 minutes that she was there was oppressive and painful.
Yeah.
And to watch these bright and beautiful children shut down on that level, it hurt. It hurts to watch that. So I, for one, am glad that there are terms and definitions that are more precise,
Mhm.
that give
Yeah.
people an identity or something to say this is at least close to me, because it's always been normal. It's never been
Right.
fucking weird. That's stupid. That makes me mad. Okay, soapbox done. I was like, oh, that was so bad. I was like, oh.
Oh,
It's
don't
cool.
go
We
back in
say
the closet
we
yet. I'm
turned
sure
it.
you'll be dragging the soapbox out soon.
That's
Right.
what it. So, what's our next song? Because we got two more. We got to get through all five. That was really Shannon from Light Asylum, y'all. You should have her on. Just saying. Okay, so
Yeah. Should, yeah.
idea brainstorm time. So it was the
Well,
Goth
well,
and God
X-ray specs.
X-ray specs. I was like, I can see them. It's like I can see the picture of them in my head, but I couldn't remember the name for some reason.
yeah. Let's do X-ray specs.
Cool.
All right. So I just gotta change the name and make it look all fancy and shit, and we go.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Great
Little 80s,
one.
little 80s saxophone in there.
I know the saxophone is so good. I love it because it's like no matter what, it's like, oops, sorry. I'm demonstrating. It's triumphant. And even though it's really interesting to think about being essentially like, I mean, this is probably their second biggest hit, right? Like, but it's like to be like a little girl using all these men as the music, and you have this triumphant saxophone and stuff that's like, while you're talking about your own identity crisis because they don't even matter, but it's to me, just the fact that she was so young when she wrote that. I think she was 14 when she wrote that. And she really touched on a lot of things, like, as much as I hate social media, we have the ability now to see people that are like us, you know, like we have the ability to be like, I only want to see plus size goths on my Instagram feed, or I only want to see, pock punk on my feed, or whatever. And you get a sense of normalcy that way. And that's not something you had then, like, ever. Like, for like a young woman of color to be talking about, do you see yourself in a magazine? Is that about like being punk? Is that about consumer culture? Is that about like lack of representation racially, and saying like, do you see yourself in a magazine? When you see yourself, does it make you scream? Because you're so excited to see someone that is anywhere close to you. Is that why you scream, or do you scream based on some self-hatred? And then to go further and talking about the slashing your wrists and trying to like get attention, and she just feels like very like like that. Like, I saw myself, it made me scream, and now I'm killing myself. Very wild. But it's sort of like to talk about basically what she's talking about there is the intersection of being in an underrepresented group that you never see yourself, you never see yourself recognized as being even a person. And then also, how does that affect your mental health, which might be a constant genetic or chemical imbalance that's in you. So obviously, like, having the stresses of being erased from society every second, as well as like she was bipolar as well, and became pregnant at a young age. So to talk about the trauma of being not respected in society because of who you're born as, having a chemical imbalance anyway, and being disabled with your mental health, and how they all come together, I think is just a really, really powerful thing, and poignant, and before her time, not before her time, but before everyone else's time, and then to make that, here's my hit punk song. I think that's very powerful.
Right. I guess I didn't realize she had all that. That's a lot.
That's a lot. And then,
that's a lot
and then
of
like, that, picking her outfits, and she would wear like weird like old lady office lady outfits, and then like front a punk band in it. That's amazing.
That's very punk. That is so punk.
So punk. Yeah. So I think that song in particular has so many layers to it, that just like, I think like the fact that this band, it didn't matter how long lived they were, what matters is that they existed, because like to other people down the line, they're like, okay, well, X-ray Spex existed, so what I do is valid. Like I can do whatever kind of art thing I want to do. This already happened. Y'all should be used to it by now. Like there's people saying that they want you to pay attention to them, like, or their group of people, or like, their club or whatever. And it's like, it's just about saying that like, we don't want to feel invisible anymore, either because like our mental health is not acknowledged, it's kind of brushed under the rug. Whenever you can make a woman seeming person behave, they have no mental health issues, right? It's like when people start to like act weird, that's when people are like, oh, mental health check, you know what I mean? But it's about behaving, it's about making people behave, and she wouldn't do that, and I like that about her.
Right. Well, I mean, everybody just wants you to step in line. Why can't you just fill in the blank with whatever thing the person who's talking to you thinks you're lacking?
Right. She was just too to bother. She was like, no, I have to put on this weird like old lady suit and do a show now. I'm not gonna do what you want me to do. I just really, really powerful. And I think that band happened at a point in her life when she could voice those things, and maybe not even like being aware. Sometimes, like, I think as a lyricist, it's almost like it's almost what is it, like train of thought kind of thing, subconscious rambling, And her subconscious, whatever they were, if they were completely intentional, if they were subconscious rambles, they were brilliant, whatever it was. So I love
Right.
that song.
Right.
And I love it. Yeah.
It was a good song. Well, I feel like X-Ray Spex is pretty well known.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, everybody knew who they were when I was younger, and most people who know very much at all about 80s music know who X-Ray Spex was. So
I think as I was getting into punk, it was like on a lot of mixtapes and stuff for me. This is, cassette mixtapes. And like, it was always like, seen as a band that, was super awesome. I should have put Romeo Void on there instead of the Go-Go's.
I was just thinking about them. I was like, here's this woman who's singing, I Might Like You Better If We Slept Together. She is not traditionally attractive. She is not wearing makeup. And the dudes are just fawning all over in the video. The whole band like worked that, and it's a great song. It's almost amazing. It's almost like an anthem. And here's a woman just talking about, well, I might fuck you if I like you, and that's something in the 80s. Certainly, you didn't say it out loud, and you weren't allowed to if you were traditionally attractive.
I mean, I'm listening to Romeo Void, Never Say Never.
Yep. I love that song.
I'm getting it right now.
That's on my list of old albums I want to find on eBay.
Yeah.
Listen to it old and scratched up, man. Yeah, that's good. I didn't, there's some bands that I didn't appreciate in the 80s that I appreciate a lot more now, I guess. Because I realized that it was just a different way of saying some of the same things that I felt. And I think I would have felt a lot less isolated if I'd actually listened to some of those bands.
But I almost put on some Sisters of Mercy stuff, even though it was very obvious. But because when I was little, like a freshman in high school, or like 14, around there, like you could not listen to them if you weren't a boy. It was against the rules. Yeah, where I lived, it was a more conservative area, and like I knew someone who got beat up by some boys just for like wearing overalls to school one day, because they're like, you think you're alternative or something, and like really crazy stuff. So like you could like listen to The Cure and like Susie and the Banshees, and once you got to Sisters of Mercy, the boys wouldn't let you listen to that. Like you're not allowed to.
Oh, so, that is bullshit.
It was really, yeah. So I would see
overalls to school in high school.
In people's cars, I would see the tapes and want to listen to it, but I didn't buy it. And so now,
oh my God, I went to the record store on the day that that album came out. This is one of my favorite. Look at how goth I am. But that's not what I really mean. But I went to the record store on the day that came out. It was like a Thursday in November. I remember it was cold as fuck, and I was down in Deep Ellum in Dallas. I don't remember if it was called Forbidden. No, it was by Forbidden Books, Phoenix Records, I think it was. I know it's like a very poignant memory when I was 18 or 19, 1987, and I was looking at it, and it was $10, and that was so much fucking money at the time. So much money at the time. Yeah. And I put it down. I was going to leave, and the guy's like, "You're not going to be able to get this again." And I bought it, and it's one of Floodland. It's Floodland, one of my all-time favorite albums. And none of my friends listened to Sisters of Mercy. It was just me.
Right.
And I destroyed it and bought. I don't remember if I bought it on album or CD. I've had 2 CDs and an album of that. I must have bought it on vinyl because that's probably what I had at the time. So yeah, that has a particular. People are like, well, First, Last, and Always is the best one. And I was like, I don't care because this one has sentimental value.
Right.
This was the first full-fledged goth album I bought myself.
and then to me, like, I want choirs on every album, because that was like the year that like everyone who produced a record that was like of note like had choirs on it. Like Madonna put it on
like a prayer.
Like a prayer. MC Hammer had it on maybe not Can't Touch This, but something like that. He had a big hit that had choir. Like choirs were big then.
Yeah, U2 had it when they went out and redid Still Haven't Found What I'm. They toured with choirs.
Oh, Van Halen had a choir. So like all these completely disparate like genres.
Right. Well, that was Van Halen. Was that the year they did? No, Jump was like 2 years before that. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember back
Take
then, but
one.
you're right. There were a shit ton of choirs out there.
There were choirs
Classic
galore.
rock bands. Tusk
Yeah,
with orchestras. That was really popular for a while. It
yeah.
was really good too.
The year that there was lots of choirs.
your choirs,
Like,
man.
oh.
Your choirs.
I never pieced that together. That is bizarre.
It is really weird, but I just loved the choir. You know?
Well, that would have been really interesting for you to throw a Sisters of Mercy in with the other songs that are in there, and to have that last one be Sisters of Mercy would have been fantastic. Absurd,
Yeah,
absolutely absurd and wonderful.
Yeah.
But Sisters of Mercy is one of those, I mean, it is I can't call it divisive, but it's kind of like putting on your comfortable old shoes.
I can still change it.
Or if like
No, we're just going off. We should listen to Romeo Void.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
That's how I feel.
I was like, oh, I love that song. I love that.
How much I love the music video for that.
I do too, and I think I did. I didn't see the music video until like maybe like 2 years ago or something. Having this song in my mind as like this like kind of like new wave, really skinny blonde. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what it sounds like to me. And and I was always like, oh, you know, it's too exciting, you know. And then seeing the video and the singer made it feel so much more powerful.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Really, really. Well, I've loved that song since I first heard it, but the vocals are just so disdainful. Just
They
so
really
fucking
are.
disdainful. And it's even better when you see the band and you just see how they interact with each other. It's really, God, I love that video. It's in heavy rotation on the YouTubes.
I got into their song "A Girl in Trouble" as a temporary thing too. It's like a little bit more like, it's not as much of as a dance song, you know. It's like a good, you know, like that kind of thing. And it kind of, I've been lately, as I've been doing other stuff, I've been watching a lot of like new wave music video playlists or whatever. And one of the things that I thought had to think about was like how subtle you had to be with how you deliver your concept, you know. Like the song is like, I'm gonna have an abortion. That's the song. A girl in trouble is a temporary thing, because a girl in trouble is what they used to call pregnancy.
Yeah.
You know. So, oh, girl in trouble, that's a temporary thing. Which, I mean, that's just very peppy way of looking at it.
And that was only like 10 years after Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Right, because Roe versus Wade was late. So, yeah, and birth control had only been legal for like 20 years at that point.
Right. So, and you know the pill birth control.
Right.
So
no, they did. They had to hide it.
Right, yeah, and a lot of like, even though you could get and they lived in California, so they could get an abortion. She could get an abortion, you know, but not everyone could, and so it's like a little bit in every state. So it's kind of like, you know, also aspirational in some places. They're like, just let's like look at the big picture here. This is temporary. It's just really, it's also just so, that's the future, you know what I mean? She's like saying the future, like she's manifesting the future, you know, when she is doing that song. And so it's cool.
Yeah, they were badass. They were badass, and I have to get the full album.
Yeah. I actually, like, I hired an entertainment lawyer that's been like active in San Francisco for like some decades, and he's like listed Romeo Void as one of his clients. So I was like, we'll hire him. He has good taste.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh. A lot of the more new age sounding, not new age, new wave. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
New wave sounding bands, they don't stand the test of time. They sound very dated. Yeah. And while they have all the elements in that song, they don't sound dated. Same with X-Ray Spex. They didn't sound dated to me at all.
Right. They still don't. Yeah. And I think that's like some people were asking me about, like, even in Goth now, like there's a lot of bands that really sound similar, and and it's kind of like, I think it's easier to get booked at like big Goth fest, or whatever, if you have like that sound of like 5 white guys with like synthesizers and some stuff, and and the slicked, this hair, you know what I'm talking about? They have like their hair goes like this.
Yes.
That's their look. Like they all do that, or they go like this, and there's like a guy, and there's a lot of them. And I just feel like my friend was asked, or someone was asking me about it, and I feel like they're just like the kind of like hair metal of right now. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you're gonna be like, I don't know the difference between Vixen, Faster Pussycat, or like whatever it is. Like they're all kind of like the same band.
Faster Pussycat, Poison sound the same to me.
Yeah, Poison. Yeah, like all of that kind of stuff. Like where they're all just kind of like, this works. Do it. And I'm like, I do not want to be involved with that, because no matter what, like Diamande, Galas, not the hair metal of anything. X-Ray Spex, no. Romeo Void, no. Like all the things that I like, were they the most commercially successful thing in their field? No. Do they still make you happy like 30 years later? Yes.
Right.
So it's like, what is the price of human happiness?
Well, I mean, the experimental is it's just so important. It's where those new ideas come from. It's where it shakes you up and makes you uncomfortable sometimes, and in that causes people to create.
Deeply uncomfortable. I mean, like,
yeah, sometimes deeply. Yes.
I listen to, I'm like, some people are like, have you ever listened to this band on acid? Because if you do, you're like, that's amazing. You're like, they're brilliant. I'm like, I always feel like they're brilliant, but sometimes it doesn't translate. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a balance, but like, yeah, I think overall, like, I just really still appreciate like artists that kind of went outside of, I mean, what if Romeo Void sounded just like Sex Pistols? That would be an abomination.
That wouldn't be fun.
No?
Yeah, I'm like, ew.
But if they're like, well, that works for them, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, I just,
well, yeah, a lot of bands did back then. A lot of bands did. They're like, oh, that works for them. Let's do it.
Right. Yeah. So
no, everybody wants to ride the gravy train.
Well, maybe we're on the verge of some people breaking out from that gothic rock. Maybe we'll start to see some innovation. It's like innovate or die. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
really harsh.
I think right now has been so hard on like this year has been so hard on everyone, that it's kind of like we're all gonna need to like recover. Some bands are gonna like be, ready to go right away, and some bands are gonna wait a while longer. But like, I think what I've really enjoyed the most out of this year is seeing like the kind of, I don't like using the word, but like democratization or whatever of like goth, where I do see like listeners and DJs and bands and everybody like way more like on the same level of discussion.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because the people who were just general participants before and in a club space, it's really hard to sort of like break into those social circles, especially when you kind of see them as like upper echelon. They have more agency in the conversation now.
They do.
They're part of it. They're part of it.
Yeah, they're essential. They're like they have to be there. Like otherwise, it's just like bands and DJs talking to each other. That's really boring.
Well, and it's like
not when we do it, but when others do it.
Well, but it's also like the bands and the DJs, because everything is so difficult. I feel like they're more appreciative of the people that take the time out to say something or get on their Twitch stream or send them messages and stuff. You see
what they're talking about. Yeah, I mean, actually, like one of the things with the music is even in Oakland, where when my band was first starting out, like I just like had felt so like left out of just kind of music scene stuff, or just, and I'm also a person who moves a lot, you know, so I'm used to being like an outsider type of person, and I know that like people treat you like shit. I went out in Halloween one year wearing like a red wig from Target, you know. The concept wasn't good, you know, whatever I had, it wasn't good, but still, I was wearing a red wig from Target. I was not um recognizable, and people really treated me like shit as just like some anonymous femme looking person. I was like, you fucking assholes, you know, like you know? I'm like, you have to be in a band, like recognizably in a band, or have something for you to even like be polite to someone. That's fucked up, you know. But yeah, no, I mean, really, like there's something about like you're saying, like most people are just able to leave their house, you know, like just and try to go to a social engagement, you know, a show or a DJ, a dance party or something, and like I think it's really important for like organizers of those things, like bands, DJs, like whoever, like you need to look at your own audience, you know, like you need to see who's there, and like if they look like they feel comfortable, you know, if somebody is standing there by themselves alone, they came to meet people, you know, like it, and you know, it can go too far, like not creeps, you know, but like if I feel like as you know, I feel like as a person who's like on a bill somehow or whatever, nobody questions if you're talking to them for some reason, you know what I mean? They're just like, oh, we're talking now. But if I go to somewhere else and it's somebody else's bill and just start randomly talking to the audience, they're like, who the fuck are you, you know what I mean? So like there ends up being, while I try and I think a lot of us try to like dismantle the hierarchy of audience versus staged or whatever, like that's part of the things about goth is like making it more of a you said people don't like community, but you know what I mean, like making it more egalitarian, more like, I mean, we're all here as people who like are fans of this stuff, you know,
actually making it a community
ways, you know. But like if all of the people who like decided that they're the 10 cool people only talk to each other and the rest of the audience isn't there, then you're not cool anymore, you're just like 10 losers in a room. You know what I mean? Like, so you gotta like, you gotta treat people right. You know? And like, who cares about your band? Nobody cares about your fucking band. You know, people are there to have a good time. You know, when I go, I'm like, oh, so and so's playing, that sounds cool, and I also know like these 5 or 10 people will be there. I go, you know. So I mean, I just feel like we have to carry that through. You know, when we start having in person meetings and events again, where it's like the same amount of like respect that you gave to somebody's like handle, you know, on Twitch or something, give it to a person. You know what I mean? Like those are the active contributors to your scene. Like quit, you know, don't be a dick to people. A lot of people feel like they have to be like, oh, these are like the, you know, whoever people, and these are the audience, and it's just like everyone is the audience. You know, everyone is there to create like a vibe and to you know, have a good time. So that's right. So
what interesting thing.
Stop making a hierarchy and kissing ass.
Oh,
right, yeah, because it's boring. We have to do that all the time. We have to do that at work, you know, we have to do that like wherever we go. Like I don't want to keep doing that to where I go for fun.
Right. I was like, I have to be nice to jackasses all the time. I don't want to do it when I go out.
Jackasses are nice to nice people, you know.
Yeah,
it's my dream.
I've learned like some basic Spanish, in part because of my streams, to communicate with the Spanish speakers who drop in.
Yeah.
To make them feel welcome, like.
Right.
Just
that's awesome.
It's like, and it wasn't that difficult, and it's all these little things, and I think that it helps that you can't see the people who are on the other side, because unfortunately our dumb fuck like social animal brains immediately just start breaking people down like, before they ever even communicate with you, just based on physical
societal appearance. Indoctrination. So you base someone or judge someone based on how they look. Whatever your expectation is of what they should look like based on what you've been taught.
Right.
But taking that away, fantastic.
I can't have big hair like yours. I wish my hair could be bigger, but so I have to deal with this like flat hair first impression.
I can't wear heels or
I've seen you have some real good hawks too. I've seen you have some
Well,
good
unfortunately,
hawks.
since I have to work in the morning, I'm too lazy to take it down before I have to go in, and they wouldn't like it too much
Oh,
if I
they'll see
showed
this
up because I work
snatched
in a
at
really
the
stodgy office.
Yeah, but yeah,
everybody's different, and everybody has something that they do really well or that they don't do really well. Every person has some kind of feature about them that looks really cool and something they try to. I mean, it's just you're right,
mhm,
egalitarian. It's
Yeah.
fantastic when you can't see people. You can't just hate them based on what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
You
right.
can't be
Yeah,
like,
one
well,
one
they're
hate
18
one
and
hate
say they're
one
not
distinct.
goth. Exactly.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
in Streamland, it's like, ooh, new person, ooh, new person, ooh, new
Right,
person.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
It's
Somebody says
like,
something really clever.
yeah.
But I've also noticed, and I don't know if this is the same for other streams. I know when I was doing live streaming on my channel and in the Obscura Undead, that the people that participate, that come in and type up or whatever, they look out for each other on the streams. They support each other
Yeah.
in the comments whenever they possibly can.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to see that. And I feel like Obscura Undead fosters. I know I foster that because I am not going to put up with someone being shitty to someone else
Mm-hmm.
in my comments and stuff. I'm going to lay you out. But I like that, and I feel like I'm seeing that more because okay, here's the thing. I was in a certain DJ's. I can't remember who it was. Whatever they were playing, and it was early on in the pandemic. In not the time before, but early pandemia, and the name dropping was painful. It was like everybody was trying to fucking out goth each other. Namebody droppity. Oh, I was at that show. Namebody droppity, namebody droppity, namebody droppity. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I was sitting here, Clint was over doing his laundry. And we're sitting here and he's just gets in there, he just starts saying random shit because he's not gonna name drop. He's like, okay, fine, I was at that show too. People were talking about a show. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna mention that show because I don't give a shit. But the name dropping was so painful. We left that stream. And I don't remember. I wish I could remember because I know I've been back. You don't see that. You see a little bit of it, people getting excited, and then it spurs a conversation instead of just name drop, name drop, name drop. It's kind of changed. It's evolved to where you're not seeing that as much anymore.
No, I've kind of been digging like having conversations about what our last shows were, and it's not name droppy. It's more just like, oh, you got to see them, oh man, like they were doing my town like 2 days later, shit like that.
Oh man, yeah, I've had that conversation several times. The decision not to go to that show and how painful it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like because we're in this pandemic, where there's kind of that camaraderie of we're kind of all in this together, especially
like the shared terrible experience.
Yeah, those of us who are wearing our masks, staying home, or those of us who are considered essential workers and putting their life on the line for so many different services and reasons. Yeah, for all sorts of stupid shit, like having to work at 6 o'clock in the morning in the mall on the day after Thanksgiving on Black Friday because you got to make a living. In the U.S., we don't have any protections. We have no protections.
Are you gonna go? Are you gonna work at the mall?
No. I have luxury and I can work at home.
I got
like, we can set you up a Venmo. I'm like, I do not think you should be there on Black Friday.
There is no way that I would go to a mall, and I've also discovered don't go to a liquor store because I'm in a place where there's not a lot of mask wearing. I'm gratified in the grocery stores, and I found out why when you go to Kroger, if someone's not wearing a mask, no one says anything, and that's because one of the first people who asked someone to wear a mask had a gun pulled on them.
Holy
at Kroger.
Shit.
Yeah, and they're using my body, my choice. That's the killer.
I know they are.
It's hilarious when because I know someone whose sister is an anti-masker, and she's like, well, it's my body, my choice, and it's just like I absolutely fucking agree with that shit, but let's talk about the group of 8 cells that you want someone to be an incubator for with that same term. I'm just like, what the fuck?
The thing is, it doesn't really, like, that statement doesn't really apply when it affects other people.
Yeah, it's the same thing as yelling fire in the theater. We have freedom of speech.
My body, my choice is when it only impacts you. Got it, y'all?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's and people people pulling their constitutional rights aside from the fact the Constitution needs to be rewritten
Constitution's
to
garbage. Constitution's garbage. I mean, we should still follow it, you know, because we don't have anything else. But like, it's also garbage.
needs to be rewritten
It should be
completely
yeah.
from scratch. It doesn't include anyone who's not a white dude. For real. It's all amendments that people just don't really pay attention to. But yeah, it's one of those things where they're like, my constitutional right, freedom of speech, blah, 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 blah. I was like, you can't yell fire in a theater, in a crowded theater. That's illegal because it harms people. Why are you allowed to not wear a mask when it's literally killing people? So yeah, I'm all a constitutional reconstructionist, or whatever the term is for people who think
that. Yeah,
what?
I agree.
Yeah, whatever that thing is. I'm sure there's a group.
Yeah, I'm just not about like, even just like I feel like it's because the Constitution is like the mama of the law, you know, that people like who are like, this is the law, you know, and I'm like, we can just like rewrite it and then it's not the law anymore. So like the law as a moral barometer doesn't work for me, you know.
Yep.
Personally.
Well, it's religiously based morals. That's, I mean,
yeah.
I'm not buying into that bullshit. I'm not buying into it. Okay, well, just killed the conversation, so maybe this is a good time to sign off.
Yeah, I'm getting real quiet because I'm getting real tired.
I know, yeah. Azy's over there is like, I'm about to pass out. I was like, I'm tired.
I'm sitting here thinking, oh God, can I stay awake? I've been trying not to yawn. I have to get up earlier because I got sent back to the office this week. Yeah. What?
You got to get back to the office?
Yeah, as of yesterday.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Like a real office, like that you sit in?
Yeah, I was working from home for months and months, and there's no reason why we had to go back, but they decided, you know what, everybody has to go back.
Did they have you guys separated at least?
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's kind of funny. The plan that they have now is less conscious about distancing than the original one was when it wasn't as bad, and they didn't think that we would be at home for very long. So it's not great.
Oh my God. Well, no, we were inevitably we knew there was going to be a second wave. They've been saying this the whole time. I can't. That's so irresponsible. Azy, I'm so sorry.
Well, you know, they didn't want to look like they're, you know, playing any favoritism to my department because we're the only ones who can actually function from home. So I don't know what the logic was. I'm not happy about it. I could complain about it. It's local government. It's fine. Whatever. I'll die. No, it's actually not fine. I'm trying not to be super anxious about it because sitting in that office, it gives me the heebie-jeebies all day.
Yeah, just go in. You can't get away with looking what I call normal, which this. Just go in looking scary.
I put on my big headphones and I wear a mask. And if I ever feel like, I can actually sit at my desk and wear sunglasses because the lights give me a migraine. So I can sit there wearing a mask, big old like aviators and these huge headphones, and no one will talk to me all day, and it's great.
Do not approach. Do not approach. Sometimes it's good being the scary person in the office. Yeah. We have to have special permission to go to the office. So I changed jobs. All my shit is still at my old desk. I don't feel safe for my stuff, but I'm not going to go get it. And they don't want me to. We are out until at least January, I think was the last. I'm assuming it'll probably be May.
Well, at least with my job, they extended casual dress days through the New Year's to make up for bringing everyone back.
That does not make up for it. I'm just sorry. I'm really sad right now because of my friends who have COVID now. One is a hairdresser and one is a food service. You know, he works at a restaurant bar, and it just seems like really cruel. Like the kind of almost it's almost random. Like you can have unemployment and who can't, and they were on it for a while and then got kicked off, but I didn't get kicked off, you know. I don't know if it's because our classification
it's not well managed at all.
No.
Yeah, it's just so cruel, you know. And so I actually don't want to make jokes. I'm sorry, and I encourage you to not like normalize it when you get there and just like stay vigilant because like I've been hearing more and more people that I know that have gotten diagnosed with COVID and before something. you know.
I wish they would have been a bit more mindful about this, because there are people in my office who are elderly, and my husband works in a grocery store. He interacts with a lot of people every day. We're very lucky that we haven't gotten sick that we know of. And that makes me a risk factor to have in the office around all of these other people, which is why I wear my mask sitting at my desk all day. Not because I have to, but because I'm very conscious of where I am. And the fact that I am a potential spreader if all of these people are, quarantining. All these people in their, 50s and 60s and have all these health conditions and whatnot. I don't want to be responsible for that. And I do feel it was very irresponsible on the office's part to just bring everyone back, treat it like, oh, we're just back, just wear a mask. It's not okay. And I really have been trying to, like, do everything I can, but at the same time not, like, be so anxious about it, because
that's bad for your health too.
Yeah, otherwise I won't be able to sit at work and, like, actually work, because I'll be too busy freaking out all day.
Yeah.
It's really stupid. It's really quite stupid. There's no unified plan. We need to get our shit together, just generally speaking.
Right. Yeah, as being in one of the other states that's practicing dumbassery. I am really sorry, Azy.
Yeah.
Do you need, I have some disinfectant food grade tablets you could spray right in someone's face. Do you need me to ship you some of that?
I have mace and a really good quality taser.
Yeah, that'll work too. That would totally work.
I have.
My arm can touch your arm. That's not 6 feet. Like that.
I have tons of. I actually went back to the office. I had left a big bottle of hand sanitizer, and it was mostly full. I come back, it's empty. And I'm just like, look, if you're going to use it all, at least replace it on my desk. So I had to bring in more hand sanitizer, but I have hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, spare masks. I have everything I can possibly have sitting at my desk.
Except a taser.
Except a taser and bear mace. Yeah.
Oh, bear mace.
No, I want that, like, I want whatever, like, police brutality mace that they had that squirts, like, 10 feet.
That's what I bought.
Oh, shit.
It works for them. Like, everybody else I know goes in, like, a weird perfume cloud, and then hits you.
No, that shit's like a cannon.
It's really bad, yeah. So I'm gonna send it to you, and then you can mace your coworker. Effective.
Yeah, right. If you have an anti-masker, they're gonna need a little mace. Then they'll want to wear a mask around you.
No, it's frightening when you get on those sites, because I'm like looking at like the cop lover sites, and they're like, man, I'm gonna listen to taser, but like that, and yeah, it's terrifying. You don't want to get on their mailing lists, but they got good pepper spray.
No. All right, Michelle, you want to take us out?
Let's go.
I do, but we'll have to wait until after the COVID.
No, not like that.
Well, I mean, you asked if I wanted to.
I guess it was an ambiguous question. Also, thank you.
I don't actually need my glasses. I don't have to read. I don't know why I thought I was going to read a script. Well, thank you, everyone, for staying all the way through this video, talking about acceptance in the goth subculture. We're going to revisit this in 50 different ways with every person we can get.
Yeah.
It's not the whole theme of the show, but, we'll come back to that. And thank you, Akiko, for sharing so many lively stories and kick-ass music. And I'm going to have to go buy some Romeo Void, man. I'm not going to be able to get that song out of my head for days.
Oh, yeah, no, same. That was a great way to end.
Yes, choice. Good choices.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's been super fun to talk to both of you. Really appreciate it, and honored to be a part of your show.
Well, and remember the Psychic Eye compilation, No Silence. It's the subtitle that I forget. No, oh God, I need to scroll it up.
The Bandcamp's been on the OBS this entire time, so.
What has?
The link to the Bandcamp URL.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it comes out, the full release is on the 30th.
Yeah, 42 fantastic bands.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's badass,
Love-
y'all. If you
I
like the
love-
music that was played tonight, you will like this compilation. I am waiting with bated breath for this compilation. It's fantastic. And it benefits what charities? Organization?
It benefits, Black Lives Matter Louisville, which is a group of people that I've met before and really need the support right now. Like Louisville is live, you know. And the other group of people that it benefits is the Florence Project, which is in Arizona, which, if you know, Arizona is a very hostile state to immigration, to brown people like in general. And so this is an organization that's representing detainees for free in Arizona. And my whole idea for that was that, like, I'm like, oh, people are buying stuff from Oakland lately, let's use the money from Germany and from wherever to go to people who are doing like really important on the ground work in places where they're not going to get that support, you know. So we could have sent it to like some organizations here, but I'm like, I feel like the whole California privilege thing is something people have been talking to me about. So I'm like, just send the internet money to the California money to the other places where they need it. So yeah, so really, really important groundwork that are being done in both you know, Louisville and in Arizona. So
Right, because obviously Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's so obvious you shouldn't have to say it, but we do. And
Right, yeah.
ICE is vicious. ICE is vicious, y'all. They are fucking vicious.
Yeah, and I think that's all I have to say.
All right, then we will sign off. Again, thank you everyone for joining us, and have a good night.
Have a great night. Thank you, both of you, and everyone watching.